So we learned about square roots. We learned how to find the square roots, perfect squares. We have learned about solving expressions, equations, and now how we can kind of use it solving a real life story problem. So this one has to do the crop circle. Crop circle is 45,216 square feet. What is the radius of the crop circle? So first thing you always got to ask yourself is, what is the problem asking? So what is this problem asking? Caesar. Yeah, what is the radius? Now let's try to figure out the question, right? What is it asking? So it wants to know the radius. Who remembers what a radius of the circle is? Jim?
Is it half of the circle?
It's from the center to the edge, right? That's the radius. All the way across, yeah, that's the diameter. And if you go around the circle, like perimeter, that would be called what? You remember what that word is? Circumference. Very good. You guys remember a lot from last year. That was all this stuff last year. All right. So now we understand the problem, what they're asking us to do. Well, they gave us the formula for area of a circle. Right here. Okay. Area equals pi times r squared. Well, they gave us the area, 45,216. And for pi, when you use a general number for pi, it's 3.14. Pi actually doesn't repeat, doesn't terminate. It goes on forever. So they usually just kind of trim it when they're using it for calculation. So you can see in the story problem here, they plugged 45,216 in for A, 3.14 in for R, and they basically go through and solve it. Okay? So here, to get to 14,400, they don't really draw the steps out here, which I'm not a big fan of, but they divide it by 3.14, right? When you divide 45,216 by 3.14, you get 14,400. So to get that, you got to square root both sides, because to get r, you have to square root r squared, right? And the square root of 14,400 is 120. So this radius, we have a radius of 120 from the center of the field out to the edge of this crop circle. Okay? So go with a similar problem. I want to give you something to see if you can figure out. So I'm going to give you a plate. The plate has an area of 50.24 square inches. I want you to find the radius of that plate. Okay? So use the same formula. All right? So I'm going to give you a minute or so to solve that. We're going to pause the video and see how you do. All right, so if I plug 50.24 in for the area and 3.14 for pi, I got to solve for r, right? We want to get our equation like they did down here for r. So what's the first thing I have to do, Peter?
Divide 3.14 on both sides.
Yep, 3.14 for both sides. So on the right-hand side, when I divide 3.14 by itself, that's 1. Caesar, what's 50.24 divided by 3.14? 16. Okay? So now, how do I get r squared to r? I got to do something to both sides. Annabelle. Square root both sides, right? Because the square root of r squared is r. So r times r is r squared. And the square root of 16 is 4. Plus or minus 4, right? Why would we only write 4 and not include the negative 4, which is also a solution, technically? Why would we not include negative 4? Yeah, you can't have a negative measurement, right? Doesn't make sense to the situation. So if we were solving this equation as is, with no story problem, we'd have 2 solutions. But one of the solutions, because of the story problem, doesn't make sense to the story. A negative 4 inches. What does negative 4 square inches look like? I couldn't even tell you. So it's just 4 is the appropriate answer, 4 inches. Okay? Now, with that in mind, at the very bottom here is a little self-assessment. Now, the one you did the other day had to do with the square roots, the expressions, and the equations, right? Now we're going to deal with a problem-solving one. So there are 2 story problems up here. I want you to take about 10 minutes and go through and solve it on your own. We're going to go over it together, just like we did the last self-assessment. You'll fix any mistakes. And then we're going to do a little a little self-assessment, little survey there. All right. So we're gonna give you about 10 minutes to work on this. We'll come together and see how you did. So you can use any part of the paper you want. If you want to get a lined piece of paper, all right. But try again to do this on your own. Okay. So if you read the first story problem, it says your distance d in miles from the horizon can be approximated by d equals 1.22 basically says times the square root of h, where h is your eye level in feet. So the distance is in miles, the eye level is in feet. But it's asking you, what is your eye level? So they want to know what your eye level is when you are 9.76 miles from the horizon. So they gave us d. We're looking for h. All right? So when you set this up, you're going to plug in 9.76 for d. Whoa. So I'm going to think of 1.22 square root of h as like 1.22x, right? So it's multiplying, right? How can I get rid of the 1.22? Gil? Nope, not minus. Chris? Divide. If I divide both sides by 1.22, that's 1. So I'm just left with the square root of h. Because remember, solving any kind of an equation, we have to get the variable by itself. No squares, no square roots, just a single letter. That's our goal. So, what is 9.76 divided by 1.22? 8. Now, we learned a skill the other day of how we can get rid of a square root. What gets rid of a square root? Caesar? You have to square it, right. So if I square the square root, that leaves me h. But, what do I also have to do? Right, because when I do the right side, I got to do the left side. So what's 8 squared? 64. So our answer is 64 inches. If you think about it, what's the square root of 64? 8. 8 times 1.22 is 9.76. Okay? So 64 inches was 25. How many people got that? All right. That was a tough problem. All right. Now, the next one where it says dig deeper, says the speed of a tsunami, that's in meters per second, can be modeled by this function right here. And d is the water depth. So for A, it asks, what is the speed of the tsunami when the water depth is 500? So we're looking to solve for S. So that 500 is d, right? So for 26, if I take S equals, and I want in the side the square root, 9.8 times 500. Anyone tell me what 9.8 times 500 is? The big number.
1,500.
A little bigger than that.
4,900.
4,900, that is correct.
All
right. What is the square root of 4,900? That's when you're not... 70. So the answer to this, A, would be 70 meters per second. Okay? That's a pretty fast moving tsunami. Okay? 70 meters is a little over 220 feet, maybe more. Now, what happens to the speed of the tsunami as the depth decreases? How can we figure that out? Because they didn't really give us a number. How can we figure that out? As the speed decreases, what can we do to figure that out? We just did a problem when the depth was at 500. So what can we do to figure that out, Chris?
Maybe do it at a lesser amount.
Yeah, pick a smaller number than 500, right? Because wouldn't that be decreasing? So I don't know. Jackson, give me a number smaller than 500.
400.
Very good. Okay. 9.8 times 490 is 4,802. If you take the square root of 4,802, it is 69.3. So what's it doing? The speed's decreasing, right? The speed is decreasing. So what happens is the speed decreases when the depth decreases. Maybe next time pick a number a little little bit more smaller than 10. But you still get the idea, right? I mean, you could have picked 499. Would that have been a smaller number?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the self-assessment. So on that blue piece of paper I gave you, just like you've done before, okay? Just like you've done before, just the top section where it says 9.1 finding square roots. You're only doing those 4 rows. Remember, 1, I did not understand. 2, you could do this with help, kind of like when we did it together. 3, you can do it on your own. Or 4, you could teach it. Okay? And you want to keep this with the pink one. Don't lose it. Okay? Once you finish your self-assessment, you can work on this. Okay? Homework assignment for today. You got 34 minutes left in the hour to do those 5 problems. Okay? So if you get done early, you can work on delta math. Okay, there's a lot of you that still haven't got 100 yet, so you can work on that. But those are 5 problems in that same section. You might want to circle those. 27, 33, 35, 38, 49. We will check that on Monday. And then Monday we are going to finish off 9.1. Caesar, you have a question? You're allowed to work with partners as long as you are working. Your pencil moves as much as the lips. Okay?
Yes.
All right.